Okay.
Okay, go live. It turns on here live. Yeah, it must be on Facebook right now. We are being aired right now on the wall. 30 seconds. It takes 30 seconds to get in.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Facebook got notified. It is notifying me.
There we go.
Yes, I too got a notification. We're live on Facebook.
Yeah, I saw that in the Facebook.
Yeah, we are all live. We are on the wall. We are on the world stage right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Liu. Do you hear me?
We hear you.
Yes.
Oh, we lost you. Hengel, you're muted. Or no, I don't know where you are.
Okay. I'm muted, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't see anyone. I don't see the numbers of participants. Do you see how many?
14.
14. Oh, great. So let's start. And why don't I turn on myself? Take a look at it. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. So I'll move around my phone a little bit. Okay. And all right. Okay. This is fun. Yeah. We will, each of us explain, each of you will explain, your work for like 5 minutes. Less is better. And then you can also show your slides if you want. And then can everyone share the content? How does it?
I believe that I said it so that everyone should be able to share screen if necessary.
Yeah. So they can share slides and explain your work. And we will go around the room. And then after that, we will just question and answer, and we will take questions from audience, and they'll try to answer it. And then that will be enough for 2 hours, right? Okay, so let's start. Who will start first? Mr. Braun? Because
Okay.
you are on the thing, on the screen right now.
I'm on the screen. Okay, so I'm gonna try and make this happen in 5 minutes. I'm gonna share my screen and talk you through. Oh, hold on 1 second. I apologize. Hold on. I have to. Okay, now if I share my screen, should be able to do this, and I'll talk you through how we got to here. Okay, so if we go back to 80s, 90s, I'm a punk kid activist in New York City, and a musician and spoken word performer. But by the time we get to mid 90s, I guess, late 90s, I'm a furniture maker. And I go through a period of years making furniture by commission, sort of fancy work for fancy people. But it's not really for me, and it leaves my voice as an activist sort of lost and wanting. And so I find myself making sculpture and moving into the fine art world. And as I do so, I find my activist voice sort of coming back very quickly. And I find I'm making work that is concerned with issues of social justice and issues of the ways in which we treat one another. And that leads pretty quickly into the terrible things that we do to one another. And the ways in which we shame each other and we damage each other. And I realized that it's really all about shame. And once acknowledged, that shame becomes very pointed and starts to talk about the terrible ways that we treat one another and look at one another and the injustices that are done to each other. And we're already, this is the evening that Eric Garner was killed. So we're well into the 2000 teens already. So that leads me into considering community. And so if we do these terrible things to one another, how can we find ways to cooperate? And can we? And so my work begins to kind of aim towards cooperation and community, and looking for ways to foster that connection between people, or to understand when it doesn't happen. And that leads to conversation. And so there's a series of work that is about fostering conversations. Aid, thank you for this picture. And from there, I find myself in the middle of the Trump era in Richmond, Virginia, the Confederate capital. I'm here teaching at VCU Arts, and this statue of Robert E. Lee is literally right out that window. I'm right on the circle that contains this statue. And my first instinct was to rent a storefront and hang a banner that said, "I'm a New York Jew, help me understand." From that is born the Decency Project, and that's what I'm doing now. So I set out using the most basic of tools to reteach myself how to make simple objects like spoons using really, really basic tools. And that took me right up until about the pandemic to really get comfortable enough to be able to do that work physically. And so then we hit a pandemic and the death of the murder of George Floyd, and Richmond undergoes, like most cities in the country, this sort of resurgence of a sense of social awareness, a new attention to the Black Lives Matter movement. And so I set out to use this carving with someone else as a way to connect to people who were not of like mind. And so I contacted the Richmond City Republican Party and a bunch of gun groups, and I started talking to them about spending time with me. Let's get together. We will carve. I'll teach you to carve something, and in the process, we will talk about what it means to be human. We'll talk about decency and shame, right? And this is the way that I've found I can use the fact that I'm a white, blue-collar looking guy who can have these conversations with people. And so I made this is called a spoon mule. I made this apparatus with which we can do this work. And I take it out with me and we carve spoons and we have conversations, and we talk about what it means to be human together. This has been going on for a while here in Richmond. We did it in Flushing last month, and we'll do it again in Inwood at the end of the month, in Philly later this summer, and in the fall, it looks like I'm going to be going to Israel to do this with Palestinians and Israelis, which is very exciting. So thanks, that's it. So did we lose Hengil? Hi, Anna. Hengil, you want to name who should go next? You're muted.
It looks like I'm next in the lineup, so I guess that could be me if everyone's cool with that.
I was just going to suggest
I
it.
figured Hank was going to say my name anyway, so I'll just
Okay.
jump up. All right, friends. Well, my name is Dario Moore. I started off as a painter, actually, and then I found myself getting more and more into installation and sort of, I guess, rebelling against the, rectangular shaped 2D painting that I was used to doing for so long that existed hung on a wall, and thinking about ways to kind of create more like experiences that people can dwell in, almost like, you know, meditative or sacred spaces in places which you know, like galleries or even in public spaces. Now I've been thinking to create a lot of these installations. And I'm actually, you know, in a lot of ways very grateful for this opportunity that Hangul and the Korea art form provided for us, you know, for me personally, because, you know, creating the sculpture that I did in Weeping Beach Park and just thinking about the next sculpture that I'm going to present in the Heights is also, you know, furthering the, you know, my exploration in, you know, creating sort of sacred spaces and alternative places. So, you know, early on, a lot of my work kind of was, you know, in the gallery setting, and also working with the materials of the canvas still. Like after, you know, I went through this phase of ripping off a lot of the canvases from the stretcher frames, and then thinking to reuse the stretcher frames in different ways and making cages and other types of assembled objects out of them. And, you know, manipulating canvas in different ways, and, you know, using different objects. I started incorporating a lot of found objects, and, you know, in addition to some of the sculptures that I would create from canvas and things, to be able to create these works. Unfortunately, I don't have the best connection right now, so hopefully I'm not laggy or anything like that, but I just wanted to show just sort of a quick look at, you know, a lot of the work, or sort of some of the different materials that I've kind of used to be able to create these sanctuary spaces. Me personally, I mean, I grew up as an Anglican Christian. My mom's from Grenada, and the Church of England was kind of what we were raised in. And for me, you know, I fell out of religion when I was around 12 years old, 13. And I really got into, you know, some Eastern philosophies, Taoism and things like that. But down the road, I kind of started to just believe that the universe itself was, you know, had its own mind, and that we, as tiny manifestations of that, sort of like could, you know, once in a while through epiphany or something, peer into that greater consciousness. So I guess at this point, kind of pantheist leaning. And, you know, so in a lot of ways, I feel like because there is no church for that, art has really been my safe haven to kind of explore different spiritual concepts, and also with objects, kind of like have an exchange with others, you know, because objects in their own way are endowed with, in my opinion, endowed with, you know, the power that we sort of bless it with, you know, just in terms of, you know, the way that we, you know, identify with objects, what objects mean to us. You know, they take on a lot of significance, you know, there's nostalgia attached to objects, and, you know, and symbolism. So I try and use a lot of iconography in my work as well, and use a lot of work that's personal to me. Like this piece in particular uses a lot of old sketchbooks that I cut up and put into slide sleeves. You know, slides back in the day were used to, you know, submit to, you know, to college, to art shows, all those things. And it's outdated, but, you know, I thought when I saw the slide sleeves, I was inspired to cut up some old pieces and create something, you know, sort of an installation out of it. And, you know, so in a lot of ways, you know, my previous work, you know, is informed by, you know, things that I'll just acquire, whether I just find them or I, you know, sometimes I just feel like this work really needs an umbrella. So, you know, I buy some of the materials that I think that I'll need for it, because I want to, you know, actualize this thought process. I'm sorry these are taking so long to load. But you can see little thumbnails. Maybe I'll just leave the little thumbnails, and I'll just kind of scroll through. But it wasn't really until last year that I started thinking about creating these in outdoor spaces. And I had a little backyard space last year. So I, you know, started just using that as my studio. You know, in the pandemic, it was like, what are we going to do? Like, you know, I don't have a studio anymore. A lot of the art opportunities have dried up. So I'm going to do the best that I can, you know, where I am. So, you know, started just using things that were in my apartment, using things that I had in my shed, and sort of rethinking my own space, you know, my living space, and, you know, creating some of these altars there. And down the road, I did get some residencies at Governor's Island. Let's see, one of these is up right now, actually, on Governor's Island, from the West Harlem Art Fund. They have a residency called the Visual Muse Residency. So this is currently up until June 25th. So, I went through a phase where I got away from painting, and now I'm kind of in a place where I'm kind of bringing it back into my practice, but in kind of like rectifying the different angles that I pursued art, with, into like sort of a visual language and a narrative that I think is more, kind of represents all the different layers of my practice. So, I've been exploring that with a few different residencies lately. I had one at Materials for the Arts where this darkroom show existed in. This was a 12-piece series 13 pieces actually, called Archetypes of Visual Narrative, Archetypes of Visual Soundtrack, actually. It was inspired by Jungian archetypes and also musicians, personal idols of mine that I've grown up with. And, I also explored performance in that. So, through the pandemic, it was closed. No one was able to actually go inside to see the exhibit. So it just existed online as a virtual exhibit. But I was able to activate the pieces through a ritual that I performed that was recorded and now exists online. And that was my first entry point into performance. And since then, I just continued thinking about that and created my first in-person performance, actually, a couple of weeks ago at my solo show at Flux Factory, which was a series called Don't Let It Slip Through Your Fingers. This is just a little view of it. And I just want to take a second just to mention that this series actually was the inspiration for the initial piece that I created at Weeping Beach Park for this particular project. And it's a 6-piece series, and it's going to culminate in, there will be a final piece that's going to be on display at Inwood Park. So, this is just kind of like just want to give you a little snapshot of my practice, and some of the different directions that I've gone in to some of my different studio experiences and just different explorations, and leave it on this note just to give an idea of where I'm going for the final presentation in August. And I want to really, once again, thank Hang Gil and just thank all the other artists involved, all of us being able to present work in a public place for other people to engage with. It's something that, I think just a few months ago was very nerve-wracking to think about, but now, it feels very empowering, and, I'm just very grateful for this opportunity. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Dario, for talking about your work. And we will go back to you with the questions. And the next one is Hannes. It's your turn. I'm going to alphabetical order, by the way. I'm sorry, my technology is behind. So Hannes, why don't you go?
Sure. Thank you so much, Henkel, for having me, and wonderful presentations already. So I love like the focus on like connection there with Scott and Dario, also like the relationship we have to objects and how that leads to a connection with ourselves and the creative there. So my focus is really on like connecting with ourselves. I've was like been an activist and artist since like a kid, basically working. I don't have a slideshow because I thought like I'm gonna do a little like active creative meditation. So so we can instead of focusing on the screen, focus a little bit on our inner world. But I'll do that in a little bit. Just for a few minutes, I kindly ask you it's also what I want to do in the park. Yeah, so since a kid, I was very invested in like against whale hunting, Greenpeace, WWF, volunteered in Rikers Island here when I came to New York for many years. And yeah, and as an artist, I've worked with all kinds of mediums. And right now I'm very interested in the connection with ourselves and the connection we have with technology, which I think if we improve the connection to ourselves and technology, it also leads to more connections. So I'm less of a community builder in that sense, but more of hopefully that leads to also more connections, yeah, more openness, more open-heartedness. So we're so much in our mind and so much on our screen these days. So I like to ask you to do a little meditation so we can connect with ourselves. If you wouldn't mind, I know there's like sometimes like, I don't want to do this, or like, what is this? All this like thoughts, or like, do I have to stop my thoughts? So I'm going to do a very active meditation, which is also scientifically studied. We've done them at the University of Oregon for an art science project, and it's probably going to change your blood chemistry if you want to do it, but in a good way. So be prepared for a little bit of a rush of blood. So I kindly invite you to close your eyes and to ideally not look at the screen. Sorry if there's any background noise. And yeah, just closing your eyes. Maybe also you can like unmute your screen if you like. So you don't, so nobody's going to watch you as well. And then basically just checking in, how you're sitting, maybe relaxing your shoulders a little bit, moving your shoulders up on an inhale, and then dropping them on an exhale, placing one hand on your lower belly and one hand on your heart. Just sensing, are your shoulders relaxed now? You're leaning back on your chair. Just connecting how you're breathing. Have you focused on your breathing today? Just checking in. Maybe a sigh. We're all on mute except me, so you can sigh. Actually, a sigh creates twice as much air flowing into your lungs. So it's a very beautiful opening practice. Just a deep inhale and a sigh. Trying to expand your belly on the inhale. So really like a big belly, having the biggest belly you can have on the inhale, then expanding your chest. Either breathing with me or at your own pace. Trying big inhale. And just a letting go exhale. Then we do about like 11 deep inhales, so really deep nose. Just a brief letting go exhale with a sigh. Deep, slow inhale. And a letting go exhale. 9 more. Only focusing on our breathing now. All the rest could happen outside of us. Deep inhale. And letting go exhale. 8 more of this. Maybe each inhale, the deepest inhale you've ever taken. Letting go exhale. The last 7, each inhale with a smile. Smile creates so-called happy hormones as well. Deep inhale with a smile. And a letting go exhale. 6 more of this, the deepest inhale you've ever taken in your life. With the brightest smile. And a letting go exhale. 5 more like this, inhaling, expanding like a balloon. Letting go exhale. 4 more. Each inhale, the deepest inhale you've ever taken. And the letting go exhale. More like this with a bright smile. Letting go exhale. 2 more like this, inhaling into your whole body, getting oxygen into every cell. Letting go exhale. Now 1 more inhale like this, deep inhale. And letting go exhale. And now 1 very last inhale, and that's the trick now, a deep inhale. And then the slow exhale, and then trying to hold your breathing after the slow, relaxed exhale. Not exhaling everything, but a deep inhale. And a slow exhale, and then just trying to hold your breathing for as long as comfortably possible. It's very healthy to hold your breathing there. It's studied, this technique. Trying to hold your breathing for as long as possible. If you can hold it for 10 seconds, that's fine. If you can hold it for a minute, that's fine. And totally normal that you can do that. And just whenever you really need to inhale again, then taking a deep, nourishing inhale and hold your breathing 1 more time. But if you're still holding your breathing after the exhale, enjoy holding your breathing, relaxing your body. Maybe adding a smile while holding your breathing either after the exhale or after the inhale. And then ending this brief little meditation with a love and kindness meditation, keeping your eyes closed if you like, and just thinking of a moment where you felt really happy. Just maybe when somebody smiled at you, or with like a very loving family member or so. Just inhaling that moment, that feeling, like as you would nourish that feeling of joy, of happiness. And exhaling, imagining you can send laser beams and rays from your heart region out to that person, sending out that love and gratitude. Deep inhale. Now sending it to yourself, that feeling of happiness and gratitude to your whole body. Now, one for all of us, breathing together, deep inhale. Sending gratitude to all of us. Now one deep inhale for all the people we're gonna meet. Letting go, exhale. Now one inhale for all the organizers of this. Inhale, deep inhale. Send us some gratitude for all the park visitors. Thank you. That's for my part. So hope it brought you some joy.
Applause. Thank you. Great meditation and great breathing. Okay. So we will go back to Hannah later. And why don't you go, and Ayana, why don't you go on? It's your turn.
All right, so Lisette and I are linked, so we're gonna do ours kind of together. So I will show just a few images from my Instagram. And luckily she and I are close enough that she's on my Instagram. Okay, so where should I start? Go back to the top. So lately I've been doing a lot of work where I'm doing like performances, but experimenting with photo. So I went to Yaddo recently. Oh, sorry. There. So I went to Yaddo recently and I was trying to learn how to use my new camera with manual, but I also wanted to do photos. So this is like my tinsel garden. So I'm just gonna clip through some of these so you get an idea of what I've been thinking about lately. Basically, it's fantasy in everyday life and the idea of not just taking up space, but kind of building your own little world and then welcoming people into it. I found that with all the discord from last year, instead of wanting to make my work, I mean, it still has a hint of anger because I'm like swinging around shovels a lot and hammers, but there is a bit of like fantasy that I've been kind of more obsessed with than normal. Believe it or not, it snowed in April and I decided to do a photo shoot in the snow. And it's actually hot tea I'm drinking, so that helps. And I don't know, there's a bit of, I want to do whatever I want to do, even if it seems a little like pulling down my panties in public, and there's slight breaking of rules, not major breaking of rules. And then this is Lisette's recent work. So she literally dressed up and ate snow in her gown on her backyard. And this was during the pandemic. All this work is from the pandemic. That's her daughter. And that's honey they're putting on themselves. This is also Lisette. So she is a painter and there's a lot of physical work, but still referencing painting. So I like to think of this like an abstract painting, even though it's really like a performance. And I know she thinks of it that way too in the framing of the work.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's, I view everything as a an abstract painting. Yeah.
Right. And I just thought this was awesome. This is like, Lisette, is this from the kissing series? Like you kiss over and over again?
Yeah, so it's a kissing series that I started a while ago. I don't remember the year, but I'm always asking what if of my materials. And because I'm asking that, I'm trying to push these boundaries of what's a painting, especially because, you know, painting comes with just so much baggage, and it's not relating to me. And I've just been kind of alchemist. What else can I do? How else can I change these materials and these sources? And it dawned on me like, oh, I can print with my lips. And it's always because of something that happens in real life. And it's, you know, I kiss someone and, you know, you go like this, like, oh, well, not that we're even kissing anymore. That's another thing, right? You're not even touching that way anymore. Or you're, you know, you're asking for your COVID test. But that smudging of, oh yeah, I need to clean that off. But it's that sign of affection. And so I bought a whole bunch of different red lipsticks and just went at it. And a lot like what, you know, and this whole idea of pushing your body and endurance, and, you know, how long could I go to kiss and print and reapply and kiss and print and reapply until my lips are just dry and hurting and painful. And I look for that moment of pain. It's almost like that's what brings me connected to like an authentic, oh, I'm alive. And I was doing it on paper and doing it on surfaces. And during the pandemic, this was through the wavelength. And they were soliciting videos to, this was in, they did not actually tell you the location because they were afraid that people would come drive and hang out, and you weren't allowed to, right? We were in the middle of the pandemic. And so it was supposed to be projected onto this building wall across the street. And it was fantastic because you got to see, you know, minimal traffic, but the traffic is stopping just to catch like, what the hell, what is this? And so I had to rethink how I was going to set this up, and with the idea of, I'm going to kiss, but I want to kiss your face, but I can't touch you because we're in a pandemic. Like, I can't touch my parents. I can't touch, we were all in that situation, right? Where you couldn't touch your loved one. And I wanted that kiss now, that print now, to break right through the space and feel like it could be on you, on your skin, on your surface, as opposed to what I was doing earlier. And even the scale that it was presented, I thought that could work, right? So yeah, I tried it in different places. I tried it at you know, my glass deck door, and that wasn't working. So ultimately I ended up going into the bathroom, and I had my daughters just stand. My daughters collaborate with everything now. So it's like, you're doing this and you're doing that. Or they send me ideas. They're like, what if? And so, yeah, I had them standing there just photographing me and taking video shots of what could possibly work. And then I have this cool neighbor that happens to play the harp. And so I was like, why, again, her life was also stopped, right? As far as playing the harp, she was joining a symphony. I forget in which town, and that came to a halt. And so I asked her, "Are you open to playing the harp anywhere? Because why are we?" And again, I'm breaking these borders, these boundaries. Why do you have to play in the symphony? Aren't you still playing? So let's just play outside. So while we're in the middle of the pandemic, I have access to the backyard. And so I had her and her husband took the harp out, and we just created this, let's make art, let's just make stuff while you're also making music. And it was freeing and liberating for her also, because she comes from the practice of, you know, it's a very instructional, and for her, she loved this idea of why have I been in this mind frame of having to play in certain places? What does that mean to be in a certain place and to have these these locations dictate who you are or how you function. So I thought it was a great collaboration with her. Oh, and so I see things where I tend to, if I tend to, some along the line of what Ayana is saying, I just want to do whatever the hell I want to do. And I have this whole link in my mind as if I'm Janet Jackson when she did Pleasure Principle, because I felt like I envision like I'm just like breaking through like her. She you know, just that video keeps replaying in my mind, this amazing woman taking ownership of everything and inviting you to break all these, you know, location rules and boundary rules and so on. And so I tend to, if I see something that, if I feel something that I want to do, if I see an area that I want to actually be in, I want to actually be there. So I will make it happen. And I'm trying to do that more, as opposed to, well, I'm going to do it later or when the time is right. And the pandemic really got me thinking a lot about this idea that we kind of
we only have 2 more minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm sorry. But yeah, so I'm just working, filling my, you know, my pleasure principles. And when we work together, do you have those shots, or do we do that later? I'm sorry. Are we doing that later?
No, we're doing it now. We don't have time. All right. So we collaborate. We went to grad school together. I do a lot of durational work where I push my body to a limit. Like I stop traffic, push-ups in the street. I do jumping jacks for 2 to 3 hours in heels, usually wearing like neon bodysuit. But when we do it together, we wear outfits that match each other, kind of to let the public know that they are together, but they're just literally run to your friends who can't anymore. And the reason I like doing it with Lisette is because I've known her longer than I've not known her. So it's a friendship of over 20 years. So of course, it's a nice metaphor. You running to someone for help, for need, for things, but it's also very like a simple thing everyone can relate to.
Yes.
And we invite people to run with us. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, which is like friendship. And sometimes someone gets tired, sometimes they don't. So I'm just gonna speed through these. Or not.
Oh, no, there it goes.
Yeah, we decided to scream a little. Sometimes we ran and we were out of breath. Sometimes we run by each other and we go talk. Sometimes we talk. We hold our arms up. The other one knows we're about to run to you. And it's a way for others to also know if they watch us from a smile. That gives you an idea of that piece and like how it works.
Sorry to interrupt, Ayana. We couldn't hear what you said while the video was playing.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So basically, I was just saying, like, we run to each other, we hold our arms up to signal to each other that we're about to come to the other one, but we also are not. We do it so that the audience or people, whoever happens to be coming by, can see it too.
Yes.
I also said it was like 90 degrees that day. So maybe we shouldn't have done it that day, but so we're exhausted in the video you just saw. So like there's a point where I'm kind of jogging, not even running anymore. And that the screaming starts more towards the end because we're so hot and tired. And also running in front of a museum is a metaphor for like the struggle as an artist to kind of make it. This is still right in front of El Museo, but this is Central Park in front of them. Some friends joined in. That's Lisette Starter.
Yeah, and that's what's so great is back to what Ayana had mentioned, that when we're performing, when we're doing these, because that's the second one. So now, Ayana, we're going on our third one. And thank you to Hang Hill and to the Korean Forum, because we'll be able to, work this one out for the third time. But again, people can join, people can watch, they can feel that whole endurance. And like she mentioned before, some people tire out, and some people just, they try to continue on.
Right. And at the end, she picks up my legs and we wheelbarrow into whatever the venue is that we're working with. So in this case, into the museum. Her daughters actually imitated us. We are exhausted at this point. It's like 3 hours of being in the hot sun and they're like mocking us. And then we go into the actual gallery and we kind of passed out. And that's not staged. We were just exhausted, laying on the floor, and people took pictures of us like that. I didn't think that would happen, but whatever. Whatever happens, happens. This is the first time. You can see the sweat. That's at the end of that. Just the first time we did it. And that was at ABC Oreo.
Yes.
ABC Rio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we try to do it with makeup. Like we kind of make it a feminist statement too, where it's like you're trying to run in a dress and makeup and do all of these things while gendered.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, thank you. I hope I didn't interrupt you, Ayana.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
All right, so we will go back to you later on. And next one is Shemin. Yeah, H. You have a name H. So yeah, Shemin, why don't you go?
Hi everyone. A lot of you I didn't get to see in the previous session because I was away and going back to my home country. So like for instance, Dario, good to see you, Ayana, and I think Lisa, and also Angela, and also Hannah. And thanks for Korean Art Forum for providing this opportunity. I think it's wonderful that we can usually pretty stuck in our own mind and really just focus on our own art like specific art form. So like seeing performance art, seeing sculpture, paintings, like Dario, that is beautiful. The very spiritual. I love the items. And Scott, I told you that, and also Ayana, always like pushing body limits, interesting. Like amazing things that you guys are doing. So thank you for that. Obviously, enjoy Hannah, beautiful, the meditation. And so what I did is very similar in a way to what like you almost referred to everybody else is like very similar in a way, just spiritual or meditative, but in a way just by through painting. All right. So just gonna quick sharing two things. I'm gonna make sure I finish this in 5 minutes. And right here you would see this is my personal portfolio. So I'm a painter in water-based medium, so watercolor, acrylic. So this series is done for the pandemics, all done in pandemics. I believe all of you kind of have the same feelings that basically we all have kind of in some part of our life we have to cut our own hairs, right? It's like terrible. But that's those things I put them into visual with two-dimensional paintings. And so what I hold, the workshop that I hold in the park is which is in the Shared Dialogue event, is very closer to this series. It's more like you invite audience into the park and you let them sit there and just holding up with watercolor, because watercolor is so portable and so accessible. So in a way, I kind of just providing material to the audience, and this way they will interact and feedback that they enjoy the moment. So it's very similar to Hannes is doing the meditation, and I treat art like my meditation. So very similar to the decency that God was doing. Like you want people to feel good. You want to feel like, for instance, like the performance art, Ayana, and this that you're talking about, the context. I think that is the thing I wish by painting the audience themselves, they just do it by themselves. They feel the connection with painting. Like when they sit under a tree, when they actually look into that tree, that is the thing I wish all of the participants can feel. So this is very closer. Besides that, just to run it very quickly, I did public artwork for different venues. So I'm gonna quickly skip that. So that's just again referring to the pandemic, big turtle that like reborning, like things are reborning from the surface. So that will be my first sharing. Bear with me. I'm gonna quickly share about the event this time. See. So I used to teach. Sorry, not my whole screen. My apologies. Okay, right here. So I teach in with seniors. I often joke that I taught from kindergarten kids to seniors, all the way in between, everybody in between. So I teach the senior center in Flushing. So you will see actually I'm holding a drawing workshop, speaker drawing workshop for all the seniors there. You will. So this is the connection I'm seeking. Like no matter it's a little kid or a senior or the family that visited the park that day. It's the same thing I'm seeking. It's like with the same drawing or painting activities, I wish all the audience feel that presence. That you're looking at this, your classmate in front of you, but you want that direct presence. So just very quickly sharing this. So you see this is what they do. So with those art activities, I wish they always feel that joy of being at the moment. So those are the things I'm looking. You see them work on different kind of material. This is absolutely just sewing work, and different kinds of construction with papers. So just basically lead them through all those events, and those are the seniors. So when they told me that really brightened their day, those are the moments I feel like yes, there's something that about art that can move the community in a way, not necessarily. It's very personal. So I cannot really tell how you enjoy it, but collectively, I wish to see that from you. Okay, and this is our, like I said, like those are the kids I work with. You see, when they put that mask on, they become a different person, and they feel super happy about it. And those are the moments by interacting with art. I wish through education, in a way, through public events. That's what I try to bring to the world. Not only my personal studio practice, and yeah, that's my sharing. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't really take too long.
Thank you. I forgot unmuting myself, but then, okay. Okay, now next to person is Jaid. Zaid, are you there?
Hello, hi. Thank you, Hengel. Thanks to Korea Art Forum for this opportunity. And thanks to all the people who are presenting their work. My name is Zaid. I am primarily a photographer. Today, I don't have a lot of visual references to show you. I'm going to show you some of the images, but let me tell you a bit about myself. I was born and grew up in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Dhaka is the capital of Bangladesh. I was born 4 years after the country was liberated in 1971. And I was born into a family where we were involved with the liberation war. So the country was just starting to build up and recovering from war. And so it was very new. So from early childhood, I grew up with, a lot of politics and rights, and liberation was part of it. And fast forward to 2016, I became an immigrant and moved to Queens, New York. And I arrived at a very strange time because that same year, Trump was elected president. So it was a very crazy experience. So I started school. I came back to school after 17 years, and I was in grad school. Scott was one of my classmates. And there in the art program, I started looking into basic rights, fundamental rights. And when I was growing up, we heard about 5 fundamental rights: খাদ্য, বস্ত্র, বাসস্থান, শিক্ষা এবং চিকিৎসা. So that's food, clothing, shelter, education, and healthcare. And in New York, I found that, you know, all the other four were being talked about and worked on. So food was sort of not part of the conversation. So I picked up food as a subject or something to work with. And then when I started researching on it, I couldn't find any instrument where a citizen, not only in the United States, even in parts of the world that I grew up, there was no legal mechanism to sort of claim that right. So, which was funny. So I tried to look into it, and then I realized that in the 60s and 70s, it was more like a proposal, but it never went through with the world leaders. So anyway, I started. I arranged a food table and started conversations around it. I would serve what I enjoyed eating back at home where I originally come from, and I would serve tea or something that we call chanachur, and sometimes other drinks that I've made myself. So all the stuff that I would serve at the table, I would prepare myself and then serve to participants and have conversations around them. So one of the most personal things is when you're putting something in your body and the person serving it, if you accept, you already some barriers already come off. So like, you know, in social interactions, there are so many barriers we have created ourselves. There's space. You can't sit too close to somebody. When you're talking, there are all these different social norms in different parts. So the moment somebody accepts food or drink, a lot of those barriers just diminish and it becomes very personal. And I would also ask something for exchange, something in exchange for what the participant is receiving. And for this, I would open it up, like they could offer me anything. So when Hengil was putting this shared dialogue, shared space together, I proposed that I would like to invite people for tea. So Chai Dawat is the Bangla title. Tea is something which is very part of Bengali culture. Bengalis living anywhere in the world. There is something called Adda, which is basically the closest translation would be hanging out and chatting for hours, sipping on cups of tea. So I want to try to share photos, and yeah, screen sharing has been very difficult with my connection. I'm not sure if you're, I'm still going to try. So I served tea at the location where we had the
He's trying to share the screen, but then disconnected, I think. You know, it's a technical issue. So I don't know whether we should move on or we should wait and then raise questions at this moment, you know, like 2 minutes. Do you have any questions? You know, why don't we just interrupt on, just wait like 2-3 minutes and then see, you know, whether Zaid can come back. If not, you know, we move on next person. Yanjin, you will be the next one. But then, you know, unmute it. Can you unmute yourself? Okay.
He's back. Zaid is back.
Zaid is back. Okay.
I see him back. Yeah.
Zaid, are you back?
Hi, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's not gonna. Yes, I think that sharing thing is not gonna work with my connection. I'm sorry. So shall I continue?
I have to unmute. Okay, just to wrap up your presentation, Zaid. You have to unmute.
Yeah, thanks. So screen sharing just snapped my connection, so I'm not going to try again. Sorry about that. Sorry about the interruption. So yeah, at the location at the park, it's my grad school campus was also very close. So I spent 3 years there, and I found out that it's one of the most diverse locations on earth. Cultures from many different people from many different cultures have come together, immigrant populations, and myself being a new immigrant, I realized, so many people together at one location, but there is not a lot of interaction between these communities. So that's one of the reasons I decided to offer tea, and tea is pretty much common. People understand what it is, even if you have language barriers, it's easily communicated. And having conversations about tea and the history of it, how it was introduced to the Indian subcontinent by the colonizers. The British found it in China and introduced it to the Indian subcontinent, and now it's become part of the culture. So how also, culture is shaped, and having these conversations, it may spark memories with the participant, and they also share about their histories and different types of foods. So these conversations, I have a pen and a book. I request them to write part of it, especially the exchange, what the participant has offered in exchange. So that becomes a record. And that book, they write down in their handwriting what they're offering. So I've received offers, like somebody who is present in this room, actually, Hayun, she offered to dance in exchange for tea. Another young child in the park, they offered me, I have those photos I'm not being able to show, I'm sorry. So they offered me some Lego pieces that they brought to the park in exchange for tea. So very interesting exchanges also take place. It's the objects or the performance. Yeah, so I'll wait for the questions section if anybody has anything to ask. Thank you, Engel.
All right. Thank you, Zaid. And let's move on, Yeonjin. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you so much again, like everybody else, for having me in this whole meeting and then projects. And I'm just gonna move on to sharing my screen really quickly. So I actually, my practice is in twofold. One is video practice and the other is non-video practice. So in the video practice, I make dioramas and collages and drawings, and then shoot. At the time when I was shooting this one, I was shooting in one long take. So diorama was pretty long. Set in centimeters, it's actually 532 inches long. So it's pretty long piece. And I was moving camera in front of this whole diorama to shoot this video. And it's called Spaceship Grocery Store. So my video pieces basically is talking about alienation, about immigrant person. So I had a dream that was sucked into a spaceship, and then in the spaceship I was doing a grocery shopping. So that sparked the idea for this piece that I wanted to make a piece about spaceship that looks like our neighborhood or my neighborhood or the human villages that travels millions of light years all around the universe. And what they experience in the spaceship is what we experience, like horrors of life and injustice and dictatorships and violence as well. So I moved on to more personal stories afterwards. This is called Ghost in the Yellow House. So this is actually based on a true story of my cousin, who also is an immigrant. She's in Seattle. She's now in California, but she moved to Seattle after she married to this Korean American guy. She was a cellist, but after she got married and had kids, and she had to give up on everything but raise the kids and support the family. So she told me the story of her house in Seattle was haunted. And, she experienced this ghost in the form of white female. And when she was telling me the stories, I was feeling that her immigrant story was kind of resonant with my own immigrant story. So I made this video about 20 minutes long, describing her experience with a ghost, which is kind of horrifying for a lot of Koreans, but not to a lot of Americans. So it kind of moves on to also me being alienated, seen as a monster as well too. So people who are assimilate to another culture from another culture to this culture or any other culture, they're trying to assimilate, and often they see themselves as monster because they don't belong either places. So I made this comedy piece of me being turning into a monster after I got devoured by a monster coming out of the Yellowstone. I did a residency in the Teton Art Lab, which is in Yellowstone area. So this monster flies out of the geyser, comes to me in my residency, attacks me in the shower, eats me like in the Hitchcock Psycho, and then flies back to where it's coming from. And as it's flying back, it merges with me. So the monster turns into me and flies back to the geyser again. So that's brief account on my videos. And then I started working on this jogakbo, which is Korean traditional quilt or stitch work. My aunt owned a Korean traditional garment store, and then she made this beautiful jogakbo when I was very little, and then she gave it to all the family members, and she also gave one to my mom. And as looking at it at the very young age, I thought that was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen my whole life, at the age of 10. But it was really beautiful. And then it kind of was stuck with me for a long time. And then when I moved to United States, I saw this plastic bags that is very different from Korean plastic bags, because this commodity looked very different and then very new, and the color is different. Everything is written on this very different, and it actually be seen as kind of beautiful objects to me instead of garbage or environmentally hazard objects. So I was collecting those things, and I thought that was like revisiting the idea of my aunt's jogakbo. And I kind of hesitated because, I was taught in an institution that is very hierarchical, very male dominance and male chauvinist as well. And then stitch work is regarded as something that is sort of, diminished, and lower art as well too. And then I was thinking like, maybe I can just go ahead and do it because, what is beautiful is what is beautiful. So I decided to make a homage piece using plastic bags to my aunt's jogakbo. So that's what I've been working on since 2018. And I live in Inwood area, in the Fort Tryon Park. Now the marijuana is legalized, but still is smoked illegally by a lot of people. And I found a lot of drug bags in the neighborhood. And I collected them and then made them into also quilts as well too, using Korean traditional jogakbo making technique. And that this practice sort of led me to another practice, which is book project that I've been working on as well too. It sort of made me revisit my childhood as well. Growing up in a military dictatorship, growing up in a sort of totalitarian confirmed society. And I start thinking why I think this way, I behave this way in a certain situation, which made me feel uncomfortable in certain American situations. So I sort of dig into those things. I got into the sort of textbook that I was taught in the when I was in high school and junior high school. So this is called Home Economics for Girls. So it's very gender defining for what women has to do, only things like stitching and sewing and food making and house tidying and stuff like that. So I start burning this book with a magnifying glass. And this is called a war preparation for girls because South Korea is still at war with North Korea. So the country teaches high school kids to learn to fight in the war. So I put a little MP3 player talking about my own experience of dictatorship when I was very little, interaction with my mom regarding the dictatorship. So it talks about personal accounts about that. and also going back to another textbook. It's also coming from the Home Economics for Girls, and then I made into a lace. This very text talks about what we have to do as an individual citizen of the country, which is to service the country. That's the only goal, and that's the only reason we live in this country. So I sort of made this into a lace piece using some Victorian lace and cut out all the words out of it. Yeah, so that's what I've been working on over the last 10 years. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful work. Okay, so let's move on to Jay Lee. You unmute, yeah.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Thank you, Hengil. Really amazing. Everyone's work is really inspiring me very much. My name is Hayun. This is first time I'm working with the Hengil, this project, performance project. My computer crashed earlier, so I'm using my cell phone to communicating right now, so I cannot share my screen, but I would like to explain to you a little bit about me and my work. Also upcoming our project. I don't know if Mr. Ma is joining us or not, but I'm just gonna explain to you a bit about it. I'm from South Korea, and I am very much of sharing is very important to me in my work. Either that is a performance form or installation form or paintings or not. So that idea generated from my young childhood, from my mom. Each time, whatever she cooks food, and she always leave one bowl of rice in a kitchen or anywhere, even raw rice, to provide someone who are hungry, and she would like to give those to those who needed it. So I wasn't sure why she was doing it. Somehow when I was in Korea, I wasn't an artist. I was working for the intelligent Korean government for 8 years. And when I came to America, I see a lot of things that as an immigrant person that I felt so others. I'm so isolated from anything, and my language wasn't that good. I cannot speak English very well back then. And I don't belong anywhere. I don't belong here, I don't belong there. But one day I realized I belong everywhere. So what I did, when I went to school in MICA, Maryland Institute College Bar in Baltimore, I started working with the homeless shelter, with not only male homeless shelter, only female shelter, which they deal with many different issues, many different kind of physical issues, mental issues, whatnot. So I was working with them for 5 years as we have an art therapist, but I was assistanting those ladies. So we made a lot of artwork through with them and among them and share them. And when I finished school, when I went to Vermont Studio Center, I was looking for also soup kitchen, and I was working with them too. So every time when I move around, when I went to find out work set in Massachusetts, I was also working with the soup kitchen area, and it dawned on to me what this share is so important to me, especially with the food. And I realized that we have South Korea and North Korea. We are separated by unwanted country, of course. But I remember particularly they're talking about we have a famine. And I saw people lined up for free food. And somehow when I was very young, but I think they scarred my mind or imprint my mind. And later on, I was working with the rice. It became one of my visual language. So I was cooking food for sharing with the people. That was my performance. Somehow I made it food with hair, my own hair, to make different food, type of food, and trying to messing up with edible food or unedible food. And I work with also animal bones. The animal bones has many different connotation and symbolism. And when Hengel was talking about doing this performance at the Inwood Park, I was wondering what can we do with people? So I did some research on that, and that area has also, as Hengel mentioned, low-income people have a struggle with the food and whatnot. But in the end, we have 9 artists. I invite them to come, but their age group is 20s. Some people are 80s, and they are Americans, Chinese, Koreans, all different backgrounds people. They do understand about how important it is for them to share with their artwork. So our title is Walking with the Art, basically. Each artist will bring their wearable art or 2Ds, 3Ds. They can put it on their faces. And whatever we will do, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna line up, we're gonna walk through the park, and we will share with people at the park. If people sitting there, we can be able to approach them to be able to speak about what they have their own issues. So this is I'm gonna do. This is the first time I'm doing with the Hengel. So we don't have a lot of images yet, but after this project, when we are done, and I'm sure we have more materials to talk about it. But I put them my website in the chat box if we have a chance to take a look what my work a little bit about it. So 5 minutes, that's good. Short and sweet.
Yes. Very punctual, 5 minutes,
Yep.
you have been, you are showing your past experience working for KCIA, Korean Central Intelligence Office. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Actually, she's doing this working performance, and then Lujiang Lee, Mr. Lee is part of that performance, isn't it? Yes. Nice to meet you, Mr. Lee. Okay. All right. So let's applaud to Angela, because Angela has been waiting for so long time, right? Yeah. So Angela, why don't you share your art?
Sure, one moment. Okay, can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So hi everyone, my name is Angela Miskis, and I'm here to talk about my community project called Abuela Neighborhood Maintenance. I feel like many of you guys are also a painter, and I started as a visual artist, but this project was born out of a necessity to create something that will connect me more to my community. And also something that will carry some of my painting background, where I was working with family imagery and recycling. And so this idea came to be. So Abuela Neighborhood Maintenance, Abuela means grandmother in Spanish. And it's a project that is inspired by my grandmother. This is something that she used to do back home in Ecuador. And I wanted to make something that will honor her while she's still alive. And also something that will connect my art practice and my community in one. Let me go next. So what do I do? So I founded it in April of 2020. Also, like many of you too, the pandemic just shifted a lot of aspects of my life, and not all of them for bad. One of them was that I started working from home, which meant that I was spending a lot more time in my home and in my neighborhood, and sort of noticing the things that were happening around me. And one of the things that many of you know was that the sanitation budget was cut and many services were cut. And so I started noticing an increase of litter and just garbage all over the place. So I decided to start these projects that I actually thought about way back in 2019, but never actually had, I guess, the courage or the time to start it. And so I began just doing little cleanups around my neighborhood on my own, and then very quickly realized that this is not a problem that one person can really tackle on their own. So then I reached out to other organizations that were doing bigger community cleanups, and I asked them to show me how they got in contact with sanitation, with parks, and then it sort of just grew from there. So one thing, how I'm able to bring my art background into this project is by how I make the volunteer vests. So I use a lot of recycled fabric that I iron on the vest. And the messages on the vest are different phrases, either inspired by community members that submitted quotes into my Instagram account, other things that I think about, maybe phrases that people might say during one of the cleanups. And they're all catered to sort of like join in, like we're a community, let's come together, like we're in this together, like let's work together to just make a better neighborhood and a better world for ourselves. And so through the art, through photography, like you see here, and through the use of color with a bright orange, it's very hard to miss the volunteers when we're cleaning in a neighborhood. And the use of crafts with sewing and everything else combined, that is how I'm able to infuse my art and my art background into the community work. And so for my event with Hangul, I didn't want to really mess up the Korean and Japanese characters. So instead of cutting them in fabric, I decided to do stencils. And these are just little videos of how I did them. And it's translated into, of course, English, Korean, Spanish, and Chinese. And these were also phrases that were selected by community members that Hangul was able to translate into Korean and Chinese for me. And these were the best that we wore during the event. Okay, so here are just quickly some pictures. This was my first community event outside of my Southeast Queens area. So I didn't really know what much to expect. And actually it turned out that the cleanup was the least interesting aspect of the project, but rather everything that was happening around it. So for this event, I partnered with other organizations that I knew, Moms Who Care, and they focus on giving free books to kids. And they also do a lot of educational activities. And I also wanted to do a bit more of like a handmade interactive aspect. So I did this picture frame that people were able to, take a picture with and sort of honor and also commemorate Earth Day and Earth Month at the same time. And here are some pictures from the book giveaway. And this is actually what drew a lot of the engagement in the park. Is I work in the Whipping Beach Margaret Creamery Park. And there is like a huge family-oriented kids in the neighborhood. And so it was really great that we were able to just offer like hundreds of books for free. They got rid of like 5 boxes, which was great. And then they also did a bingo game also that was Earth theme. And that was also really cool. They were able to hand out prizes. And I also invited another friend of mine, Naomi, who probably a lot of you know her, and she did a demonstration on how to compost in your apartment. And so the theme, because the event happened in April, everything was sort of catered around the idea of Earth Day and Earth Month and to show environmentally friendly ideas. And yeah, I guess that's my last slide. And that's all my contact information. And in the future, I recently got a grant to do youth workshops about, I guess, getting the youth perspective about the littering issue that's happening in our neighborhood. So if anyone here is a teaching artist or is interested in just kind of like being in touch, just feel free to email me. I'm still developing the project. I'll probably launch it by fall or next year, but putting it out there for people that might be interested in participating or working with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then yes. And then don't say that, cleaning is the least interesting part. Yes. No, that was a very interesting part. It's just
I guess it was the part that I was most used to doing, but it was the part that I got to do the least during the event.
Okay.
And so it was a little like, okay, well, what am I doing here? But it was still really cool to to bring everyone together into one event. So it was just a different way of doing that event. And it really helped me to think about other things that I can add during the cleanups.
Yes. And then, I hope, it will be, we learn once we go outside of the community, we learn a lot. And that's what the thing is about, I think, except who is that? Let's see. None of us living in Flushing, actually. Yeah. So that's, one of the Flushing residents asked me, actually, how come none of you are living here in Flushing and then you do work here? And I think that's what the project was about. The project was about how to connect art and life and how to connect New York art community with, underserved. I'm not sure whether it's underserved, but the community that are, a little bit out of touch from the art world, So it's a more like an institutional critic. There is an institutional criticism, critic involved in the project. So that's the reason, one of the huge issue, it's my idea, one of the huge, I don't know whether other people will agree with me, but then, New York art world is in itself and nutshell and then, enclave. And then, people who are not an artist, for them, it's very hard to get in. So if you go to opening, you would notice that in Brooklyn, if you go to opening, you see the same people on and on, through and through. And then you don't see any other people. And then, and then the neighborhood people, they don't care what they do. So that's my observation. And then that should be a little bit bridged, Korea Art Forum mission is bridging by using art, bridging people, bridging North Korea and South Korea, bridging US and China, and bridging and some other people. So that's my part, my contribution to the project. Anyway, so if you guys have any questions to other people and
hang on.
Ms. Moskowitz and then Shamima and then Mr. Lee. Mr. Choi, Sung-ho Choi is our board member. So let's applaud for him, yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Choi, being here. So if you have questions, just let us know. We can answer your questions. All right.
Hang on. I do one comment and just one little thing I forgot to mention during my slideshow. So first thing is a comment that probably out of everybody here, I probably the closest one to Flushing because the seniors you saw that I'm working with, those are from the Flushing area. So I also taught the Queens Botanic Garden for the watercolor workshop. So I could tell that those people who went to the Whipping Beach Parks, when they see Dario's work, when they see Zai's performance and the exchange of the tea, I could tell you that because I was in that community a lot, so I could tell that those people, when they see Scott working on the woodcraft, they would say, "I never saw this before." So I think that's a wonderful thing that indeed KF really bring the art world to them in a way. I believe that they probably see paintings, they probably see different like two-dimensional work, but installations, sculptures, I think you really help them see those works. So that's a wonderful thing. And just I need to ask for everybody's permission that I just forgot to show my last slideshow part that's really about the event itself. So can I have your permission to allow me to show it for 1 minute.
You have
I'm
mine.
so
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that I think I ran through them and I forgot to share the most important thing. So here it is. So my project is Fill the Park with the watercolor. I believe it will bring you some smiles. So hopefully you don't mind it. All right. So just see the little kids. Those are the settings. I provide them the basic brush and the palette and the paper, and you see it's all about family connection. A lot of I was surprised that there's so many a family that just to have some fun time with their kids. So I'm gonna run through. I know I don't want to delay all of you, so so these are the settings, and you see. I basically was surprised at how kids enjoy the family settings, and a lot of them actually, and you can see there's diversity of age group. A lot of them are Mandarin speaking people. You can see seniors, you can see kids. But because it's so accessible, so portable, so that is what I appreciate the most. That by providing them that space, they're really into it. So you can see different age group of people working on it, and some of them maybe never paint, but you can see they enjoy because instantly outcome from it. Okay, and you see family members, usually mom working with daughter. I believe that the fathers are all like scrolling around and really thankful that we give him a fun time, some free time out there. So things like that. So hopefully this just give you some idea. This is the I think Korean Art Forum providing this special event for them. They kept asking me, will we do it next Sunday? So those are the things that really you bring happiness to them in a way. So hopefully that is the project I was doing actually, which I forgot to mention. Thank you guys.
Jim, and I want you to know that that picture of the old man holding his little painting, that old man stood and watched me carve for a really long time, and then he was just gone. I don't know where he went. And then he came back and he was holding that painting, and he just stood there. He didn't speak to me, even with Naomi standing there, but he stood there and showed me that painting. He was so proud of himself and so happy. I want you to know that that happened. It was really sweet.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, indeed. He held it up and said, "Thank you for doing this. Really made my day." So he said, "My hand is shaking, but I cannot hold it still. Can I still pen?" I said, "Of course you can." And he really enjoyed it, which is exactly what you said. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Also, can I add a little bit to Shamin's project that, the same kids showed up to my projects as well. Somehow they're completely hyper, it's really hard to control them, to listen to them all. And then it's like, they're all speaking to me at the same time. There's a little animal there too. So, but, I was watching you working with the kids a little bit there, and that sort of brings me how pleasurable it is, art making is, it's like, they're just sitting there making very little drawings of, it's very very interested, and then it's calming. So it really let me think that how it's a great practice in general, art making it. Yeah. So just wanted to add that little comment.
That's the most important thing. I wanted to see their face that when they engage in the art activity, they really, you could see that they totally be part of the presence. Those are the time that they forget their parents is annoying. They just wanted to do art. So thank you.
And as a drawing, it's very primitive as well too. It's really not one-dimensional. It's more like it is really direct need for as well too. As I was listening to you guys, I was doodling. So it's it really speaks to that very basic needs for art in general. I think
it's
so.
Very direct, very direct. The kids, when they see the outcome right away, they are really, really happy that you are doing this for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Nevertheless, our society doesn't recognize the existence of art or the existence of artists. That's why we are struggling, right? I have to say that, once we go out and we offer something, they love it, they want to see, and they want to see us coming back and do it again. But then somehow, that aspect is not recognized by the large, broad picture, by the large society. We should do that. Protest. Go out on the street.
But Hengil, if I may please add to that, I felt as if it also has to do a lot with what the city offers, or sometimes big corporations or companies will go into the community and provide stuff for free as promotionals, and then the city will put up events. So people who came that day to that location and participated, a lot of them were sort of used to, like, for example, the children we just talked about, they already have these activities in their school, some of this. So, working with arts and crafts, they're already used to it. So Shemin's project, they immediately sank in, and, it was, I don't know how to express this. Like, it was very natural for them to go there and just plug in. At my table, people were, some people were thinking that it is a particular brand of tea that I was trying to promote. So a lot of people approached me with that preconceived idea that there's a brand of tea, and then they're taking the picture of the bag of tea and asking me where they can buy this. And so I had to also explain that this is the brand, because the brand of tea I used was Isfahani Mirzapur, which also has its own history, because the Isfahani people fled from Persia and came to Bengal, and they came into the tea business. They had to escape the people, another group of people who raided Isfahan, which is in Persia, now Iran. So I had to explain these histories. So that's one aspect I was thinking about. We're in a city space, a colonial house next to us, and how the local community interacts with events like this. Is it perceived as an art event? Is it perceived that is something just being offered in a public space?
Yeah, we are so embedded and we are so brainwashed actually by the capitalist commercialism and then consumer culture. So when we see something being given for free, then this is some kind of promotion. I hope we can change that down the road slowly, step by step. Yeah, go ahead, Dario.
I just want to say something to that. I actually think, Heng, you did a great job in presenting the event, because you didn't have any like big banner with like your logo on it or any kind of like corporate looking stuff out. You didn't have like giveaway things, which I think would have, felt a little bit more like something corporate. Because like, it just seemed more like a curiosity. Like, I think it inspired more wonder just because there was like a random sculpture over here, and Scott was doing like a workshop with this big contraption that people could get on, and there were like art class type experiences were participatory in the back. And I think that the marriage of all that, it felt like some kind of event, but at the same time, like it was open to interpretation, and there were no logos or anything that kind of made it feel like because people could easily dismiss that as like, oh, there's some kind of event happening there, and we just want to walk around that part of the park. But yeah, I think that it was peculiar and intriguing for a lot of people who were walking by. So I think that it was a really good successful event for that reason.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Actually, one of the goals was that, again, the Korea Art Forum's mission is merging art and life. So if art gets fully merged, then you cannot distinguish. So art is not special at all. And then some of the scholars are attacking me. Art has to be something special. Has to be special, different from life. Otherwise, there is no museum. And what the museum would collect if art is not special? My point of view is, well, if there is a specialty to art, then it will never be merged with our life. So that was my, my agenda, and not agenda. Just one of the goals. just to, do our thing on our own among us, and then invite the people be part of it, like a slow motion, and I think that worked out. And then, it's important rather than giving art, showing art and then, asking them learn, rather than doing that, it's much interesting to waken up their curiosity and then have them ask, what are you doing here? Some people ask me actually, what is this? What are you doing here? And we are doing art. Be part of it. And I have no answer further than that. So I think that's very important for me. I always ask, foundations and then, anyone who wants to give money, I ask them, make people creative and then make people be curious, and then have them, research on their own. They can find out what we are doing. Actually, one of the artists, not among you, there was the idea, we have to have earnings, big banners, and then we have to have logos on the tent. Why don't you do that? And then, who would know this is an art event? But then I argued to that person, actually, you are seeing art. How can you promote art more than that? So that's my idea, a lot of city officials ask me about that question too, if you do not have, it's like, when your installation is there, they ask me, you should put up plaque, you should put up markers there, Dario Mora, and the title of the installation and the explanation, the captions should be there. And that's what they want me to do. And I said, no, you just be there and, be him as it is, let the Dario be Dario. Don't make Dario representing Dario himself, because if you start Dario representing Dario, then you are already separating himself. And that becomes, we get into this trouble all the time. And then I'm asking them, no, let him be him. Let him, Angela be Angela, don't make, Angela representing Angela, or I represent Angela. No, I have no power to represent you. So yeah. Scott, you have something to say?
Oh, I was just kidding with the comment, but there was something really nice about the, I've done this alone a bunch, and it's a very different feeling from doing it with sort of these other events happening around me, with sort of Dario's over in one corner and Zaid serving tea and Shemin, and I can't remember who was first, Shemin or Yeonjin were behind me, and we had nothing to do with each other, but we were there sort of as a gang, and and Angela was there at the entrance with Naomi. There was this sense of taking over the park without it being an event. And I really appreciated that people were just wandering back and forth. And like I said, that older gentleman was not the only one who came and showed me, look what I just did over there, and I'm really proud of this, and that was sweet. That was not, I didn't expect that. And I mean, Hengel, you and I have talked about it. I really didn't expect the children. Like I just was not prepared for it to be so many children. Because I showed up with an axe and a carving knife. So, in Inwood, I'm going to have to find a way to be a little bit less dangerous.
You make the playground, so there will be. Yeah, actually, I live streamed the event, on the Facebook, and one of the comments came in immediately. Where is the flea mark happening now? Flea mark. They thought the flea mark. It's not an art event; it's a flea mark event. And where is it happening? And I said, well, it's not. So anyway, let's move on to other questions. Do you have any questions? No?
I had just one comment. Ayana, it was really fun. I've seen you in that green zebra suit for so long. Seeing you in another outfit was so refreshing. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
It's funny you said that. I have a friend's son who recently saw me in like, I don't know, it's like a sparkly white blouse. And he was like, I've never seen you outside of that outfit. Because he sees me at art events all the time.
I had a picture of your closet
Without it
just being
on.
like a rack of that zebra.
But yeah, so I do wear other things.
Your fashion design is still referring to wedding, right? The pictures that you were shown today, you know,
Oh,
it's a,
not really. I mean, because usually either it's like a reference, but there's always a schism, like my underwear showing, or I have on a bra with no top, but the skirt is like a wedding dress. So it's not really I mean, it references it, and I want you to think about it, but I'm thinking more about glamour or like dresses you might see in Vogue that are kind of a deconstruction of that.
yeah.
So more fantasy than it is about a wedding.
And I have a question. So when you do it on the street, the performances, do you often have the public engage with you, or is that like?
Yeah, I usually I let people engage however they want to. Like I'll encourage them, like the running piece, you saw people running with us. Like we encourage that. But also, do I think you're gonna run with me in 90-degree weather for 3 hours? No. So I kind of usually am doing something I don't expect people to be able to do as long as I'm doing it. So it's like a bit of a, I want you to stay, but I know you won't aspect to it.
You should watch out the weather on that day, June 26th. You are running in June.
Yeah, that's okay. The other one was in July. It's fine.
But in June, it's, you know, it's the summer day.
Hey, we've done it in really bad weather. It's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We need a hydration. We need a hydration station.
Yeah.
Well, that second time I think we had water bottles on us, or we had something.
Yeah, we had like a little station. Like I forget where it was. There was a little spot that had water bottles that we could run to that and get the bottles and stuff. So the first time we didn't, but that's just poor planning.
Mr. Choi was there and then she just disappeared. Mr. Choi, come back.
Okay. Actually, may I say one thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I mentioned in the chat room, and I really enjoyed this event. I think everybody said wonderful. I mean, you know, expressions in their experiences, and I really enjoyed. Really, this is the first event. I mean, I said very sincere and pure. I think it is not pretentious. So, you know, so everybody say whatever the honest opinions in this event and what they're doing. And I mean, this is, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Applaud. All right. So, any other comment or questions? Please go ahead. Yes. We have 15 more minutes.
I have a friend who woke up at 5 a.m. and logged in. Ruba, would you like to say something?
Okay, so
maybe she's fallen asleep.
If you guys do, okay, somebody is asking us here. Ruba Tasmima is asking, hi everyone, and she's greeting to us. Okay, yeah. If you don't mind, you know, I have a question about the work by Dario. Dario, you are focused on sacred veneration of art, and how far are you going to that direction?
How far? I mean,
Yeah.
it feels like it's I feel like exploring like what's unseen, trying to lift the veil through art is just sort of something that I'm gonna continue exploring because, you know, we'll probably never find out the answers in our lifetime. So, it just compels me to keep exploring it. I don't know, at least I feel like it's something that I'll continue pursuing in different ways throughout my career. Yeah, I think it's just something that I'm going to continue pursuing throughout my career. I don't think it's something that will change necessarily, but I mean, certainly the materials and the different concentrations and perspectives that I may take on that may change.
I'm asking the question, you are somehow, how do you say, art is, you're somehow stating the correspondence or, equivalent between art and secret object or secret action. That's a very long tradition of art. And then I wonder if you have thought about that. All Western art history is talking about that, and then African art history also talking about that. What we told is art is about secret object, right? Secret object and religious object and veneration object that we venerate. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I have a question about that. I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I mean, our history definitely informed a lot of my, visual language in approaching this. Creating altars and, just even thinking of like, medieval Christian art and the just the way it's broken down with the icon and the reliquary and just all the different parts of it. And even I did a series this year where I was exploring the Black church. It was kind of just me just grappling with the fact that a lot of my which wasn't for very long. I only spent I think up until I was 12 years old in church or something. But up until then, like most of my communal experience, communal experience revolving around spirituality was within the European spiritual philosophy. And in creating the series of Black Church, I was kind of trying to at this juncture reclaim the fact that there's more that I need to learn about my the traditions of some of my ancestors, specifically the ones who came from Nigeria. And I mean, obviously there's a whole rabbit hole going down there with Yoruban art, and so there's a lot of research that I need to do. And in a later series I do want to explore that a little bit more, and kind of incorporate that more into just my overall perspective, ideology, and and also the way that I create some of these altars.
Thank you. I'm seeing two different ways, and it's very interesting that you used the terminology ideology there, so we are somehow, brainwashed. I think that's a very important question, and whether art should be sacred and then vulnerable object and then represent spirituality or not, why we think that way, that deals with the framework of our way of thinking, and then Western capitalism, and then, all this art history. It's a big question. I just brought that up. Yeah. Okay. So we are now 8:50. What do you want to do? Should we end here, or should we continue go up to 9 o'clock? I have many questions, but then I'm just asking you, what do you want to do to be democratic?
If you have any questions, why don't you ask a question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ask what you need to ask. Also, I think, Zaid, I owe you an apology because I think I gave you a lazy answer just now, and I should have done that.
No. I think I just was curious about knowing that what the engagement is like, and I got my answer. Thank you.
Yeah, did I? Okay. Because sometimes I give more, sometimes it's less.
No,
I gave
don't
Dario
worry
a
about it.
piggyback ride once during a performance. That one I was giving piggyback rides for hours and heels. So sometimes the audience is definitely more like if they don't participate, it doesn't work. But yeah, so I just wanted to make sure I answered you. I didn't.
You all should come. I cannot run with you because I have to oversee the whole project. But we all should come. You are Dario, Jahid, especially Jahid. You are very welcomed and then invited. So come and then run with Ayana and reset. It'll be good. Yeah. So you are very cordially invited. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still away when Ayana's gonna perform, so maybe another time. Yeah.
Another time, there'll be other things happening. People do push-ups in the streets with me. Yeah.
I need to
Some are more
practice.
dangerous than others, but
So
the other times.
You have a question, Seung-ho?
Yeah, I have one comment. Actually, I'm very little participant, but I think this event really this is a very ideal event for the future. I mean, everybody, even though this is organized by the Korea Art Forum, but we all different ethnic groups gathered together, discuss about what they're talking about their issues. I think this is very important. I mean, this is probably we are probably the very ideal goal for we are heading for, because everybody there issued their concern very seriously and honestly. I think this is a really wonderful forum. I mean, definitely, should be modeled for other meetings or any conferences. But the only concern is I wish the more participants involved for this forum. But that's all I feel sorry. But everybody showed that they're wonderful. I mean, the presentations. As I said, I really enjoyed, and this is a wonderful event.
Thank you. We will do it again in the fall, and then actually today we are doing our own art party during the COVID. So after the COVID. So people don't care our party, right? Why do they have to pay attention to I don't know.
Don't be pessimistic, but I think it's you should be more, working hard for the more promotional for this event. I mean, definitely, I think.
This is for the first time we did, or second time we did. I strongly believe word of mouth, and then the intimate space, community building. If we are talking about the community building, then we should first come together before we invite other people. We should come together, and then others will follow. So I'll try one more time in the forum with the fee, by the way. Just to make sure that even if it's a small, but with the fee. Okay.
If I may also add to that, like in the last year and some months, we have all spent so much time on the screen. It's just very challenging to have more participation, which is through the screen. So I think that's a big aspect to consider when it comes to participating in forums like this online.
I think, when we repeat again, people will come. That's why I'm asking you guys doing twice. Somehow repetition is important, people, when you do only once and then go by, it has an impact. I don't disagree that. But then, doing the same thing again and then again, it will have more impact, because there is a timeline, some people get slow, I'm very slow too. So anyway, so we will repeat again, and then, you all are invited again to another project, and then I'll figure that out how to. And then thank you so much. We are now, 4 minutes left. And then I would like to really express and wish to thank you, all of you. Korea Art Forum is not a big organization. It's like a 2 people show. Sometimes 1-man show and sometimes 2 people, and max 4 people show. There is no many actors there. And then you bear with us, all these difficulties and the hardship. And then, those who will come in June, you will bear, So I really appreciate that, you have been, patient and work with us. And, tremendously, I cannot express that, how to thank, tremendous thank you. And then, that's it. And then, I hope, we can continue doing this project in one way or the other. And then we will involve more people, more artists, and then go to more parks, and when we are persistent and then showing again and again, then I think, funders will come. Right now we have only 1 funder, but then, second funders will come and third funders will come, and then we will get better, I think, and I hope. All right. All right.
Thank you, Hengil.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing us together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you, everyone. Nice to meet everyone.
Fun. See you soon.
Nice to meet everybody.
Have a restful evening, everyone.